I mean, I do want to bring our first guest in. He is the president of SalesRoad. Welcome to the show, David Kreiger.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, David.
Congrats, Philip. That's awesome. I started my company in Philadelphia, so it's great to
Did you really?
see some great startups coming out of that area in North Philly.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. But speaking of ventures, how can someone who started a venture in February continue to grow during such a hard time?
Yeah, so we've been interestingly well positioned during this time. So I started the company SalesRoad 13 years ago as a 100% remote distributed sales outsourcing company. So this was 13 years ago where everyone was working remote. So that was kind of crazy 13 years ago, whereas everybody's been doing it the past 6 months. And
Right.
so when the pandemic happened and a lot of companies were starting to go remote, we actually were looked to for advice, for help, to help both our clients, but also anybody who was trying to struggle through the pandemic and figure out how to manage remote teams and keep them vibrant. And so it's been an interesting time for us because obviously it's a difficult time, but because remote work is so big and so important right now, that's been at the core of our business model for a long time.
Yeah, see, David, only 60-something% of the overall American workers have the luxury to work from home or remotely. A lot of people don't, and some of the people who watch our shows, they've been telling us, well, I'm a freelancer, I work here and there, but it's just really difficult. What do you say to all these people who are trying to make it during this difficult time? What suggestions would you give them?
Yeah, and it is tough. In so many different industries, both, there's been businesses that have been struggling. It's difficult to work, outside because of the health hazards and whatnot. But what I've been telling a lot of people is there are a lot of industries that are really exploding and are really doing well. I mean, look, Philip raised $1 million during this environment. So there are certain industries that are doing well. And for millennials, for job seekers, think about those companies that are exploding. Software as a service, right? SaaS is been on fire. And those are a number of our clients. I mean, you think about Zoom, the pandemic didn't hurt Zoom. It exploded. And so I think for those folks who are struggling to try to figure out remote work, look to find really hot industries. And there are many of them. Software is one. And I might be a little biased, right? Sales is great. You can do sales from anywhere. You can do it remotely. You can do it over the camera. And that's a great remote job for people to have.
And which extends to this question, a lot of transactions are done online. What is your biggest tip for catching people's attention virtually? You said sales is one way to get a career in a virtual environment. How do you get people's attention virtually with any type of business?
Yeah, so I'm very biased in this way, but I know it works because I've been doing it for 13 years and even works more now. People are inundated, right? We get messages on social media, we get emails, we get all these different things, but old school sometimes works. And you know what old school is?
What does that mean?
Picking up the phone, and it's reaching out to people, and not in a way that is just intrusive and random, because we have amazing technologies such as LinkedIn or social media to not just plaster ads on them, but look people up, find out what their interests are, both from a personal standpoint and a professional standpoint. Think about that. Think about how your service relates to them. And then instead of just calling them or pinging them on LinkedIn, give them a call, pick up the phone, and start talking to those prospects. And it's a great way to really engage and generate new business.
Yeah, David, look, I echo on this sentiment so much that every crisis is also an opportunity. It really depends on how you approach it. However, and I asked this question to all the guests who said what you just said, is if I'm a bartender or a waitress, if I was doing something that's very service oriented and that was the only thing I've ever done, it's not like I'm going to become a registered nurse overnight. It's not like I'm going to become a software engineer overnight. Are you ever going to hire somebody who worked in, say, a restaurant industry to do software right now?
Yeah, so here's so for instance, and I think sales in the industries you've just talked about, bartenders and waitresses and waiters and things like that, which have been hit hard, or in retail, right? Going back to sales, first of all, this is a people business, and it's people who like engaging with people, like talking to people, and that natural skill set is actually fairly transferable into a sales profession. Now, that doesn't mean you're just going to go and walk out of your service-oriented job and work into a software sales job, but the best companies really invest in their people and really invest in training. I mean, at SalesRoad, we have a huge training program. So all of our new hires, and a lot of our hires do have a lot of sales experience, but they all run through a really robust training program so that they really understand how to engage with people, how to take some of their natural sales talents and be able to use the phone, use prospecting to be able to engage people. And so what I would urge your listeners to do is think about these careers, but also look at the companies, and you'll be amazed at how much some of these companies really do engage and generate tremendous training for their new hires, and SalesRoad is one of them.
Yep. All right. Thanks for joining us, David.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
All right.